Change is coming into play. Doors are closing, oh, every day. A signpost, a little of a plane. They're all men, oh, they're going insane.
Hello, and welcome to Mystic Monologues here in the Jovian Archive Theatre, and I'd like to welcome you to this new technology, and I hope that you're going to enjoy participating in this adventure. Changes in play. Changes in play. Well, that's the story, really. I think it's the story about the nature of why human design in that sense is here in the world. I think human design is here in the world because change is in play. And it is a way for us more than simply to be able to see the obvious, that is the transformation of the life that's possible for any human being with this knowledge. It is not just simply about the possibility of being able to decondition, the possibility of being able to operate correctly. It is much, much more than that. One of the most dynamic themes in my work that has been there throughout my entire career is something that was placed within me at the beginning of my process. That is that this knowledge is for the unborn, in the sense that this knowledge is for the future, and it's for the future in order to be able to protect human beings and protect them as we enter into what is an entirely different age. Everything about the work of putting human design out into the world has been a struggle dealing with those that are conditioned. But the true beauty of this knowledge lies in the fact that it opens up the possibility for those that are coming into the world to be able to be treated correctly, and to be fed correctly, and to be raised correctly, and to be able to have all the possibilities and opportunities that are there for them to be able to realize their unique potential. I think it's important to understand that this knowledge, in a sense, is not to be taken for its spiritual context, but for its true mechanical purpose. In other words, to be able to provide us with guidelines in order for us to be healthy and correct, regardless of the times that we are living in, and times that are quite tumultuous, and the times that are coming. I'm going to take you on a journey today. And I'm going to take you on a journey into really what is the story of our time. And the story of our time is something that is deeply connected with what is referred to as global cycles. And global cycles are a way in which we measure the precession of the equinox, the way in which we can look at the larger cycles that have affected life on this planet. As a matter of fact, looking at the world through the precession of the equinox is something that was deeply a part of Hindu Brahmin culture for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It is one of the extraordinary things about global cycles is that given we have the mechanical framework within the context of the mandala, the body graph, it gives us an extraordinary opportunity to be able to understand the impact of any given cycle and the quality of what a cycle may be. In global cycles, which is a study in and of itself, one of the things that we look at is we look at the movement of main cycles. These main cycles take about 400 years, and these cycles take the name of a right-angle cross. We happen to be in the time of the cross of planning. In fact, I think it's very difficult for anybody to even possibly imagine what's coming, because the cycle that we have lived in, we have been living in for so long. It began in 1615. That's a long time ago. It began in 1615, this cross of planning cycle. Let's think about this cross of planning. I'm going to show you an illustration now. And this is the main illustration, in a sense, of what we're going to be looking at. But I want you to have a feel of the drama, if you will, the dynamic. This particular illustration, by the way, was created by Marianne Winiger, who created a whole series of these. They're very beautiful. They're also very practical and deeply informative. And when you're looking at this, please look to the left side in the middle. And if you look to the left side in the middle, you see a keynote that says, "The way." And that you'll see beside that keynote, there are two gates that are, well, referenced. The 25th gate and the 37th gate. The cross of planning is the 37, the 40, the 16, and the 9. These 4 gates make up the cross of planning. So let's think about it for a moment. Let's think about this keynote, the way, and just let's think about these keynotes in relationship to these major elements of this cross. The way has been family, the 37. And of course, we're dealing with its opposition in this. We're dealing with the 40th gate on the other side, the gate of the temple, what we are going to work for, what we are going to bow down to, what we are going to build in homage. And the 3740 is the channel of community. It is the channel of community, it is the channel of the bargain, and this is one of those rare crosses that has within it a definition, which means that the 3740 has been dominating as a background influence since 1615. Now think about what it brings. First of all, it's tribal. It's tribal. And as you can see, the way is rooted through the family and the tribe. The 37, the first line of the 37 represents the mother and the father. And the 37 is something that is constantly calling out. It's constantly calling out for the needs of the tribe to be fulfilled by the power of the ego, what is there in the 40. And what we get out of the 3740, what we have in this world around us is all the byproduct of the way in which the 3740 has influenced us since 1615. With the beginning of nation states, with the beginning of the vast expansion in population that turned tribes into nations, that what we're looking at is the foundation of all of this supported by the 3740. And what is it about? That 3740. It has many things that are its glue. One of them is the marriage bond. One of them is the contract. One of them is the themes of loyalty and trust. And of course, betrayal. It's all there in the 4037. Wherever you look on this planet, it doesn't matter what society you look at, what culture you look at, you see everything is built on the 4037. Everything is built on that tribal configuration. But that's not all that's there in the cross of planning. That has been the background of the development of our so-called civilized modern societies, and the way in which these modern societies always need to pay attention to those who are part of the society, to be concerned about them, to look after their welfare. The 3740 brings schools and hospitals, it brings police departments and garbage collection, it brings armies, it brings all kinds of things. It brings the world that we live in. And along with that, you have the 9 and the 16. Now, both of these are logical. They're collective. The 9 is this incredible gate of the deep power of focus on detail in order to be able to bring about great success and perfection. We have never lived in a more detailed era, ever, ever, ever. I mean, compare what was available in 1615 to what you can Google today, or Yahoo, or whatever. It is unbelievable the amount of detail that is there, and that detail is supported by the background frequency. It's supported by it. This step by step, what happened in 1615, the birth of the great secular religion, science. Real science based on facts supported by the community. In 1615, London was reeling from the plague. The community said, hey, can't you figure out something like basic hygiene? Like a clever sewer system? All of a sudden, the community and the new secular science found a great relationship to each other. Look at the way in which humanity today bows down to scientists. How they bow down to doctors. All the time. It's built into the background frequency that is there, and then you have the 16. Oh, what a delight it is, that 16th gate. What it establishes is that we live in an era of extraordinary talent and the potential for the display of an articulation of talent since 1615. No other era in the history of humanity has experienced such extraordinary and rapid change. And everything about our ability to be able to advance the way we have advanced in all of these years, everything about that, our ability, is because there is this background frequency. This background frequency that binds us together. This background frequency that says we have to create services for the poor, the desperate, those that have famine, those with disease, those that are left out. We have to find a common brotherhood. We have to have world peace. We have to create the United Nations. We've got to bring everybody together. This is the cross of planning at work. And it's not like this background frequency is some kind of intellectual story. It's in your cells. Everything about us is about how imprinting works. We are constantly being imprinted in the sense that we are getting these conditioning imprints from everything around us, from the planets around us, from the neutrino ocean pouring out of the stars, and from the background frequency that dominates any age. Now something is happening. Oh yes, something is happening. You see, this cycle that we're in, this cross of planning cycle, it began in 1615. It's going to end in 2027. It's going to end in February of 2027. It's going to end in 18 years. We are in the last nodal cycle of this 400-year plus cycle. Now think about everything about our way of life. Think about the modern way of life. Think about a city, any major city in the world, and think about how it survives. I mean, think about it. How does it survive? It survives by the bargains that are structured through community. It's the only way. That it survives through this incredible detail applied to it. Think about New York City first thing in the morning and all the people who want to eat. Think about all the food that's got to get there. Think about how that food's got to be, brought in, distributed, transformed. How we have these relationships with everything around us. The whole world now is an interdependency. A huge interdependency, and an interdependency that is maintained by the background frequency, and the background frequency is fading fast. And you see, nobody on this planet is prepared for it. Nobody. In a sense, it's not even something consciously that you can prepare for, because it's hard to understand what that will be. See, I know it in smaller ways. I understand how profound that impact can be. I've been following the nodes throughout my entire career. The nodes 3 times in every 18, actually in every 9 years, form oppositions, through oppositions form definition. That is the channel 4323 or the channel 4037 or the channel 2034. It means that everybody on the planet for somewhere around 2 months is going to have an influence that is universally conditioned, and everybody is going to have to deal with that. My classic example was a couple of students of mine that I took to a cafe one day, very early in my career. The nodes were in the 4323, so everybody had this connection of the ajna to the throat. We were sitting in this cafe and everybody was just chatting away. And I took them there and gave them the timing, so we sat there and waited for the 4323 node configuration to close, to end. and to once again leave that system open and free from the conditioning, so that all those people in the cafe who are I knowing, because that's what comes out of the 4323, all of a sudden at that moment there was the most incredible silence. The most incredible silence. It was like somebody just went, and slowly a murmur came back. Never again at that same intensity. See, we have no idea, you have no idea, humanity has no idea what's going on here. The clock is ticking. The clock is ticking to the end of an age. By the way, when you're looking at this example, because I'm sure you're asking questions, you can see very clearly that the two crosses, the two great right angle crosses of the G center, they form the matrix upon which all of this is built. And there is a vessel of love relationship, and there is a sphinx relationship, and of course you're seeing all of the various attributes here. For example, the witness keynote for the 13th gate, and of course the 13th gate being the gate of secrets. These are locks and keys in essence that you're looking at. And the key in our particular era, right now, that key is the 61st gate. It's been the 61st gate since 1615. The 61st gate is inner truth. Since 1615, the background frequency has been pushing to get inner truth released. We have never had so much investigative truth in that sense, so much exposed, revealed, released at every level that you can imagine it. Because this is the frequency. And what's interesting is the precession of the equinox, it goes retrograde. So we move downwards through a cycle. We began at the 37.6, right now we're at the 37.1. We went into the first line themes of this global cycle of planning, cycle. I got that all twisted up. We went into that in the end of 1960. In other words, what we're looking at here is that if you look at the first line themes of all the gates that are here, you're getting to see the last gasp of what this cycle is bringing us. In the case of the witness, in the case of the 13, it's the 61.1, occult knowledge, inner truth, my design, sun in 61.1. It's my time. It's my time to resonate with the program that says now's the time, actually since 1961, now's the time to get inner truth, the occult knowledge out. It's all background frequency. See, the door is going to shut in 2027. The door is going to shut. And it's not just going to be like nodes. It's not going to be a couple of gates that we are constantly integrating in our process. This is something that's in your cells, that's in your parents' cells, that's in your grandparents' cells. It was in the cells of all your recent ancestors going all the way back to 1615. Do you understand? It's in you. You are, in that sense, correct for your time. It is in you. And there is nothing in you that is there that is preparing you on the inside for what's coming. It's why human design is here. It's what it's for. Take a look for a moment at this next illustration. This is the cycle that we're going to in 2027, the great mutation that's taking place in the 55th gate, a transformation that's going to take place in the fertility of humanity, in the way in which we move forward. And this new cycle that is going to emerge in 2027, this is the cycle of the sleeping phoenix. And it is so incredibly different. Do you remember the way of the family? Well, the way of the family is gone. The background frequency to support these communities and globalization and all of this stuff is just going to melt. Because the way is going to be the 55, it's going to be the individual, it's going to be moody, it's going to be different, deeply mutative. We're going to move from tribal, collective, to deep, deep, deep individuality and a touch of the tribe. Deep individuality. Individuality is so different. Interestingly enough, I guess, appropriately, the cross of planning cycle, as I mentioned, had the 4037, a rarity and a cross with a definition. And we're moving into the sleeping phoenix, where again the 2034, an opposition that is a definition, is the core of the cross we're moving into. And the 2034 is deeply, deeply individual and concerned about its own trip. Look at the world around you now. Changes in play. Look at the financial institutions of the world as they totter. Look at our inability, regardless of our goodwill, to be able to deal with some of the most fundamental problems in the world: disease, poverty. That the institutions that we dreamt would be the answer are institutions that simply cannot work. They do not. You know, there was this condemnation that ended up in the popular press about the me generation and the problems of the me generation. Well, I am the I generation. You see, human design is not here for now. It's here for that tomorrow that's coming closer day by day by day. We are not going to have the support systems. Our children are not going to have the support systems that have been there for us and our ancestors. Oh, they won't crumble away instantaneously. They won't. Nothing does. This is evolution. These cycles have been going on for 19,000 years. They'll keep on going on till the end. But for us, in our certainty and comfort about the nature of the world that we're living in which there is assumption that there's nothing new under the sun, I want to tell you the rock is going to move. And you have to be able to live in that world. See, we're living in the remnants of the seven-centered world, where you gave your authority to everything else, and it was perfect during the cross of planning because the authority made a bargain with you, and it said with you, look, you trust me, I'll look after you. Don't all our politicians tell us that movie? You trust us, we'll look after you. Well and good, so far. But you see, it's coming to an end. We're entering into an era where you say, who's going to look after me? And nobody answers. There is no one to give your authority to, because nobody wants it. Nobody wants to be responsible for you. They got to take care of themselves. The interest is no more in the detail. It's no more in the talent and wonder of opening up all of these things. It's about survival. How do you survive when there is no conditioning authority to control you, to give you a sense of security, well-being? You follow your strategy and authority. What do you think I was going to say? This is the magic of the knowledge. It's what it's here for. My discussion of individual authority, regardless of the fact that in some ways you can put some kind of spiritual gloss on it, let me tell you, it's mechanical and it's about survival. I want my kind to survive. That's what we're here for. We're here to be able to transcend the fears of survival, to be able to embrace awareness. You cannot do that if your mind's running your life. You cannot do that if you're just going to be the lemmings that are going to fall as you go off the cliff in 2027. Those that are the most disenfranchised on the planet today, the so-called fourth world, They're sinking so fast now. Because the background frequency that was there, that managed in some ways trickle down, sort of get them some help, maybe, it's not going to be there. It's not going to be there in the air around you. It's not going to be there in the smell of things. It's not going to be there in your flesh. Something else is at work. We are nothing but receptors to conditioning at so many levels. Don't you think for a moment that you're in charge of anything in this movie? But oh boy, you have a chance when you understand what this is. What it means to be able to operate out of your own authority. What it means not to be at risk all your life. That either the authority you want to trust is not trustworthy, or there will be no one, looking for somebody. I teach the love of self. The love of self arises out of the sense of well-being that comes when you manage your own life correctly. Change is in play. Watch it in the movie around you every day of your life and understand something. Operate correctly, it means nothing. Not to you. Teach those who need to be taught, who are ready to be taught. Pay attention to all of those in that sense so that they understand what is possible for their children. To learn to find oneself, to learn to live by one's own authority. This is not about an awakening movement. I'm a mechanic. You look at the plans, and the plans say, look, it's very simple. You do this, and everything's okay. You don't need that authority out there to help you survive, to tell you what to do, to control your life. You don't. And you better be equipped. And it's not up to anybody else. It's up to you. Just you. The beauty of this knowledge. One person at a time. Follow your strategy and authority. And thanks for taking part. Until next time, bye for now.
Change is coming into play. Doors are closing, every day. A signpost, a little of a plane. They're all men, they're going insane.